Hi, we're here with Ebi Atawodi, General Manager for Uber Nigeria.
Hi.
Thank you for taking the time to speak with Apps Africa.
Thank you.
If we can start off with the story of entry into Nigeria, and you can give us some background to Uber's.
Absolutely. So we launched in Lagos last year. It's our first city in Nigeria. We're always sort of looking to roll out in more cities, and since then we've grown quite exponentially. As at January of this year, we had grown on the supply side about 10 times, and on the demand side we've grown about 100 times. So Nigerians are really sort of taking to the platform, connecting with drivers, and we are very excited about the potential here.
Yeah, you mentioned the progress today. How many drivers now are in Lagos?
So Uber's a private company, and we generally don't disclose numbers on the rider or driver side. But since then, we've grown quite significantly on both fronts.
Okay. And what challenges have you faced in the Nigerian market compared to, say, Uber in more developed markets?
I think that's interesting, because what technology does is it removes a lot of the things that we think are challenges. So we have a very lean team. We start with a 3-person city team. We try to make sure that we are working with locals in the city, so they understand the pain points of the city. And every city, regardless of whether it's wherever it is in the world, you find that every city has its own sort of unique challenges. But the one thing that remains is people are trying to get from point A to point B. And what we've had to do is sort of work through, sort of take the internationalness of Uber and sort of localize it in the country, working with existing transport providers here, and also working with sort of the if you like, the organism that's the city. So probably the only thing I would say is on the payment side, initially there was a reticence to people putting their cards on the platform, but that's very quickly going away, and I must commend the banks for how far they, I don't think we give them enough credit for what they've done in this market.
How do you overcome the challenge of people who want to use Uber but don't maybe have a bank card?
It's interesting. I think on the one side, yes, the card penetration is not as high as it could be, but what you find is, especially with a platform like Uber, card penetration, smartphone penetration almost at the same numbers, if you like. And what we're finding, I come from a sort of telco background, and what you're finding is that those things, when you start to look at customers that have smartphones, which obviously you require to use on Uber, you find the penetration is actually quite high, well over 80%. For everybody that has a smartphone, they most likely have a bank debit card or credit card. So that's actually quite interesting. And then as that number increases and you have bigger sort of cosmopolitan areas, what you'll find is naturally those people will be bank customers. So I really think that whilst there is a perception that there isn't a lot of card penetration, if you have a smartphone, which you require for Uber, and as smartphone penetration increases, the card penetration will go very, very well hand in hand.
Great. And in terms of regulation, Uber's had obviously well-documented problems in other countries. How is regulation in Nigeria been? Has it been a problem?
Yeah, so Uber is legal to operate in whatever city that we're in, and in Nigeria all our drivers actually are licensed transport providers, so we actually put them through the process of coming out as a licensed transport provider. And fortunately, especially in Lagos, the government has been very forward-thinking, and as a matter of fact, a couple of years ago some cars were donated to individuals to go into the business. Transportation is the second contributor to GDP of the Lagos state after manufacturing. So it's an area that's definitely going to continue to grow, and we want to make sure that all our partners that come on are actually going through the process which they are, going through very thorough background checks, and then going on the platform as transport providers. So we neither own cars nor drivers, and we work with existing transport providers and of course the various bodies.
I know there's talk of a lot of other Uber services around the world. Can you share anything that might be in the pipeline from Nigeria?
So we like to sort of, it's the interesting, we like to sort of, when you can think about what we can do. When you have a mobile phone in someone's hand, we can get a car to them in less than a couple of minutes. In Lagos at the moment, the ETAs are around 6 minutes around Lagos. The possibilities start to really become quite interesting. December last year we did hampers on demand. So you open up the app and you can swipe over to a Christmas hamper, view and order a hamper straight to your doorstep in a couple of minutes. And for Valentine's Day, we did cupcakes on demand. And definitely, we're always looking at ways that we're definitely thinking of what we think of Uber things and how you start to sort of get things to people in minutes. And the possibilities are endless. We cannot sort of look at it from, because every city is unique. So we look at it more from a city perspective and what could you do in different cities. And in India they just launched Uber Go, and now they have tuk-tuks basically on the Uber platform, and those sorts of things. Those are the conversations. I'm very interested to see where that goes in Nigeria and on the continent.
And in terms of other African countries, obviously you're in South Africa and some other markets. What's the plan for Africa?
Africa is a very exciting market for us. When you look at sort of the next billion, what we like to call the next billion, so next billion people to be on the internet, you'll find that a large majority of that's going to come out of Africa in the emerging markets. And we're very passionate about that. We have, in a very short space of time as a business, we're in 3 countries in Africa already, and quite a number of cities: Nairobi, Lagos, Johannesburg, Durban, Cape Town, and those are sort of, if you like, the central, the hubs on the continent. But definitely expansion across Africa is and we have Cairo as well, although they sort of fall in the Middle East as well. But there's definitely a couple of cities that are coming on very shortly, and I'm very excited about sort of where the whole thing's about Uber everywhere. I'm very excited about to see that happening.